Good afternoon, and welcome to the DCTV News at Noon program.
This program is sponsored in its entirety by the Southwest TV Translator Association and supported by the Dolores County Broadcasting Network, as seen on DC Channel 32.1.
The News at Noon program is in its pilot experimental stage, and we hope to bring a variety of news and commentary for the Four Corners region. Give us your feedback or news alerts at 677-4119.
With all that said, I'm Kendra Cook, and my co-hosts are Kelsey Kiesling and Jerry Tope. Now, for January 13th, 2016, here's the news. Covered by the Journal last night was the President's final State of the Union address, used to defend his administration's legacy and to chart the political path forward through a changing global climate. Republicans in Colorado's delegation took issue with his defense of what they perceived as failed policies. U.S. Senator Cory Gardner, Republican Colorado, said that the many challenges that the U.S. is facing, both at home and abroad, know no partisan ideology, and our strategy to address them shouldn't either. The road to a full recovery still lies ahead. During his last year in the presidency, I urged President Obama to work with Congress instead of against the people's representatives to create more opportunities for Americans everywhere. In a show of opposition to the president's proposed plan to transfer the remaining prisoners from Guantanamo Bay to America, Gardner sat with Senators Tim Scott of South Carolina and Pat Roberts of Kansas during the address, as all three of the senators represent states that have been discussed as potential locations to relocate prisoners. U.S. Senator Michael Bennet also stressed the need to remain vigilant to threats while celebrating our economic recovery, saying that, quote, "We must also keep Americans safe. That means moving aggressively to defeat ISIS, continuing to hold Iran accountable, and deterring North Korea from further hostilities."
According to the Journal, last week municipal officials agreed to stay a trial stemming from a code enforcement violation issued to a South Madison Street property owner in June. Outside of City Hall, Joe James, the defendant, told the Journal that municipal officials had overstepped their duties and failed to comply with court procedures. James said, for example, prosecutors failed to provide discovery in the case until last week's scheduled trial date, Monday, January 4th. According to municipal records, the case was transferred from Code Enforcement Officer Robert Linval, who initially issued a courtesy notice in regard to the pending nuisance complaint on June 10th, to interim building director Sam Proffer, who closed the case on August 3rd after James complied with a court agreement to install a privacy fence, effectively obstructing the public's view of his backyard. After removing the fence in early September, Proffer reopened the case against James in late October, reissuing a municipal summons for failure to comply. Last week's scheduled trial date was stayed until May 2nd after James agreed to reinstall the privacy fence. After the hearing, James said he planned to comply with the court's instruction, but he reiterated his irritation over city officials trespassing onto his property. In late spring and early summer last year, Cortez experienced early monsoon-like conditions, receiving above normal rainfall. Tall weeds were commonplace across town, in residential yards, alleyways, and along city right-of-ways. After receiving the initial code violation, James purchased a half-page advertisement in the Journal as a light-hearted attempt to showcase to the community that a lawn cop had trespassed onto his property. James didn't file an official complaint with the city per se, but he did call Linval in June. Last week, James renewed his vow, telling the Journal that he would assault any city officials that he found trespassing on his property.
Also, as reported in the Cortez Journal, in 2015, a local cannabis advocate conservatively estimates that some 300 farmers across the Four Corners harvested at least 500 pounds of marijuana. Over the past year, Lou Nettleton of Colorado Plateau Growers, Inc. gave away about 50,000 cannabis seeds to area farmers. His dream is to establish a regional co-op for cannabis growers so they can help supply global demand for pharmaceutical marijuana. Pain relief is the primary thing that people seem to be looking for. By gifting gifting seeds to farmers, Nettleton said his seed could be naturally acclimated to the Colorado Plateau environment. By utilizing the area's weather and soil conditions, the region could produce some of the best cannabis on the planet. Montezuma County's 2014 ban on cannabis cultivation, manufacturing, testing, or retail operations is still in place in unincorporated areas. After collecting harvest data from growers, he intends to approach county officials and request that the ban be lifted. Watching the barrel price of oil hit $31 and forecast lower, it can be argued that oil and gas tax incomes were already forecast to run dry within 2 decades, and county planners, probably of all southwest Colorado, should consider other long-term revenue streams. In March, the nonprofit Colorado Plateau Growers, Inc. unveiled results from its first seed trial. Conservative estimates revealed that area farmers could generate $500,000 in sales per acre if allowed to harvest medical marijuana. Broader estimates show sales of nearly $2.5 million per acre. With germination rates at 95%, seeds were planted 10 feet apart in rows 10 feet wide with added organic compost, drip irrigated for 4 hours every third day using 2.5 gallon per hour emitters. And the plants also received fish emulsion fertilizer once a month. Plants were harvested after 110 to 130 days and varied in height from 6 to 10 feet tall. Each plant produced an average of about 1.5 pounds of cured marijuana.
According to the Journal, Governor John Hickenlooper on Tuesday defended his proposal to restructure a hospital fee to balance the state budget. Hickenlooper's comments came after Republicans raised concerns with the governor's plan ahead of the legislative season, which begins Wednesday. The governor's proposal, his leading agenda item for the upcoming session, would restructure the fee paid to hospitals to exempt it from the taxpayer's Bill of Rights. The fee counts as revenue subject to taxpayer refunds. It was established to force larger contributions by the federal government to compensate healthcare costs. I don't think anyone anticipated how rapidly the state's economy would bounce back, Hickenlooper, a Democrat, told reporters on Tuesday. The governor's proposal calls for turning the hospital provider funds into an enterprise fund or government-owned business. The move would take the revenue out of the Tabor calculation and lower refunds set aside in the general fund, thereby freeing up the general fund for spending.
The hard winters in southwest Colorado are difficult on ranchers, but it's an element that we all have to live with and have experience in. This past December's crazy storm that brought snow and winds to our neighbors to the southeast created a more difficult reality. As reported in the Modern Farmer, a dairy owner said, "I never would have believed 8 inches of snow could do this to my livelihood, but there are just under 300 dead cows in a row right outside my office lying next to a 14-foot snowdrift." A total of between 8 and 22 inches of snow accumulated on December 26th and 27th in northern New Mexico and northwestern Texas. Winds were described as tornadic by some. For the dairy industry, about 143,000 adult dairy cows in the area were affected by Goliath, including half of Texas's top 10 dairy-producing counties. They believe about 10% or 15,000 head of adult cows were affected or lost to the storm. Problems ranged from not being able to get to the cows for milking, having the cows refusing to move, having them wander and become lost, getting frostbite or dying, as well as trucks and vehicles becoming stuck or unable to get to their destinations. Pre-storm, one dairy was making 80 pounds of milk per cow, while after it was 9 pounds. Finances and milk and money flow become the problems to keep paying the milkers, as well as determining how many cows to cull due to low current production and projected potential. Existing milk had to be thrown out, and with cows not being milked, their production will continue to lower. While there does not seem to be impact for consumers, the farmers will feel this for some time to come. As for those in the beef industry, they were also struggling with 125,000 and 150,000 beef cattle in the areas of Texas and New Mexico in the path of the storm. As the fence lines disappear in the snow, cattle went astray with between 6,000 and 8,000 assumed dead and another estimated 4,000 head lost in area feed yards. Some missing cattle were found within 3 and 5 miles. However, there were also stories of some cattle being found 50 to 60 miles away from home. All of this led to the start of a Cattle Lost and Found Facebook page, which worked very well to help people connect ear-tagged cattle with their owners. Everyone was reported to have plans to rebuild and survive what has been a catastrophic weather event on top of a tough year of low milk prices and volatile calf prices.
According to the Journal, a 5-year-old was left on a Bayfield School District bus in frigid temperatures Monday morning and was found walking down U.S. Highway 160B by a member of the Upper Pine Fire Protection District. On Monday morning, while she was at work in Durango, Amanda Johnston got the kind of call every parent dreads. "When's the last time you saw your son?" the man asked. The answer was, when she put him on the bus. The bus situation was unusual that morning, said Troy Zabel, superintendent of Bayfield Schools. The mix-up occurred when Max, 5, fell asleep on the back seat of the bus and wasn't noticed when the students had to transfer off of the bus with chains installed into one without for the highway. The driver of the first bus then went back to the bus barn and parked the bus. While the bus barn and the Bayfield School District Administration Building were right where the bus was parked, you can't expect a 5-year-old to know that, Zabel said, adding that the district has a checklist that includes walking through the bus to make sure it is empty. The incident has led to a review of the checklist with drivers and the addition of a final step, he said. The new piece is to verify the checks have been completed, Zabel said. Drivers will call dispatch and do a post-flight check-in.
A deepening low-pressure system off the coast of Maine will move into New Brunswick today. Snow on the west side of the low will persist across central and northern Maine into this afternoon, before finally tapering off during the late afternoon or early evening. Storm total snowfall amounts across Maine will range from 5 to 15 inches when the storm ends, with locally higher amounts possible. Further west, lake effect snow will continue through today and into Thursday, downwind of the Great Lakes before gradually tapering off late Thursday. Winds will be gusty across the entire region today, with wind gusts up to 35 at times. Cold temperatures will affect much of the eastern U.S. today, with high temperatures forecast to be 10 to 20 degrees below average for many areas. Temperatures will moderate on Thursday, with many areas returning to slightly above temperatures. A Pacific low-pressure system will bring rain and mountain snow to much of the west coast and the interior northwestern U.S. today and tonight. Heavy snow is possible for the Cascades and the Sierras, with snowfall amounts exceeding a foot possible. This system will move into the central and northern Rockies on Thursday, bringing snow to our regions. By Thursday afternoon and night, another system will move into the Pacific Northwest, spreading more rain and mountain snow into the region. This system will quickly move inland by Friday morning, spreading more snow into the Intermountain West. By Thursday night into Friday, this system will emerge into the plains, and moisture streaming northward will result in scattered showers and thunderstorms across portions of the southern and central plains. Farther north, areas of snow, sleet, and freezing rain will be possible across portions of the northern plains, upper Midwest, and Great Lakes. Thursday, an area of low pressure developing in the northern Gulf of Mexico will result in more widespread showers and thunderstorms along the Gulf Coast into the southeastern U.S. After midnight tonight through Thursday, the first significant shortwave trough in a series of weather systems will move across Utah and western Colorado and through the northern and central Rockies. These will be relatively fast-moving waves, and mountain snowfall may reach 5 to 10 inches. Some valleys could be affected, and inversions and cold temperatures will exist as the moisture arrives Friday afternoon. The cold will mean that only snow and no rain is what is expected for southwest Colorado. The next wave is expected to arrive Saturday evening, and the final wave in this batch is supposed to reach the central Rockies on Tuesday. Highs tomorrow through Monday range from just barely plus or minus of the 32 degrees freeze mark to the upper middle 30s Sunday and Monday. Winds, which have been on average 5 to 8 miles an hour for about 2 weeks, except for gusts, will increase beginning early this evening, reaching the highest peak speeds of approximately 12 to 14 miles per hour Thursday at 2 a.m. and Friday afternoon at 2 to 3 p.m.
According to the Journal, weather permitting, Republican State House Representative J. Paul Brown of Ignacio will announce his re-election bid in every county in District 59 on January 16th, beginning in Durango. Protecting water on the western slope and supporting federal Good Samaritan laws to prevent spills at abandoned mines are going to be frontline issues in the legislative season ahead, Brown said. Brown will try to keep his seat this year against Democrat Barbara McLaughlin, a retired Durango teacher. Brown was first elected in 2010. After an election season filled with mudslinging from both sides, McLaughlin's husband, Mike McLaughlin, won the seat from Brown in 2012. He said he anticipates another close race this year, and an ugly one. Over the past year, Brown has surprised both parties with his decisions, including one in April to prevent a vote to overturn the state ban on high-capacity ammunition magazines. To that, he said he tries to just use common sense and take all of District 59 into consideration.
Applications are being accepted for a program that provides funding to farmers who are looking to improve farms in the Animas River Valley. Funding from the Environmental Quality Incentives Program under the USDA is available for improvements such as transitioning from flood irrigation to gated pipes and sprinklers. The program provides financial and technical assistance to farmers for planning and implementing conservation practices that improve soil, water, plant, and related natural resources in agricultural areas. To be eligible, a farmer's income must come from the sale of produce, crops, or livestock grown or raised on his or her property. Those who grow produce for personal consumption or raise livestock for pleasure do not qualify for the program. The deadline to submit applications is Friday. They must be submitted to the Natural Resource Conservation Service's Aztec Field office or visit nrcs.usda.gov and search in the Financial Assistance section under Popular Topics for more details.
According to the Journal, to help collect more than $300,000 in inmate debt, the Montezuma County Sheriff's Office is turning to the internet. Montezuma County Sheriff Steve Nolan plans to roll out Pay My Jailer, a web-based collection management system, next week in an attempt to retrieve more than $311,000. The debt, which covers items including booking fees, commissary charges, and medical expenses, dates back a decade, Nolan said. The sheriff's office will pay up front to cover these costs, and the inmates are supposed to reimburse us, Nolan said. Last spring, during his first year as sheriff, Nolan dispatched a collections clerk to determine the organization's total inmate debt. Staff worked to compile the data for nearly 9 months, he said. Nolan said he visited with a Pay My Jailer vendor at last week's winter meeting of the Colorado Sheriff's Association. More than a dozen county jails across Colorado use this service, according to the company's website. Jennifer Dinsmore, Chief Administrative Officer for the San Miguel County Sheriff's Office, confirmed that the agency signed up to use the online service in 2014, but the department's record management system wasn't compatible.
Paleontologists have discovered a cliffside in Utah filled with fossils that offer a rare glimpse of desert life during the early age of dinosaurs in western North America. They've found a new pterosaur that would have been the largest flying reptile of the time, some 210 million years ago. Preliminary findings were presented this week at the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology Conference in Dallas. 8 different animals, most likely new, have been identified at the site, which was discovered back in 2009 near Dinosaur National Monument on the Utah-Colorado border. The pterosaur discovery is significant because it fills a gap in the fossil record between earlier smaller pterosaurs and the giant ones that come later. It is related to another large-jawed pterosaur discovered in England called the Dimorphodon. This one is the first known Triassic pterosaur found in North America, other than one unearthed in Greenland.
According to the Durango Herald, board members for the charter Juniper School announced Tuesday they are delaying the school's opening until fall 2017. The announcement was made at the Durango School District 9R board work session Tuesday evening. The district is the chartering institution for Juniper. The school, a K-5 Montessori project-based learning model was originally scheduled to open in fall 2016, but after organizers failed to get a $200,000 startup grant from the Colorado Department of Education in November, they had to rethink their budget, Board President Tammy Fraley said. "We've cut as much as we can without compromising quality of our mission," she said. "We looked at going smaller or restructuring the school, but it wasn't enough." The board kicked off its fundraising campaign in early December. "We got a great response, but that wasn't enough," Fraley said. "For the fiduciary responsibility to our schools, to 9R, to our families, we want to start strong and stay strong. At this point, we just don't have it." The contract with 9R and the board's resolution approving it may require some tweaking, which will be brought back to the board, probably at the meeting January 26th. "It gives me more confidence in you," Board Vice President Nancy Stubbs said, "that you would make this decision and not just barge ahead. The group has already surmounted several hurdles, and this is just one more," Fraley said.
The Journal reported that the Dolores Ranger District of the San Juan National Forest is considering adding groomed skiing trails in the Dunton area. Wildlife officials are assessing potential wildlife impacts, including for the Canada lynx. The two areas under consideration are first the Black Mesa area, about 2 miles northwest of the Dunton Hot Springs. This is the preferred location for the Nordic trails because of proximity to the resort and the area's seclusion. The area would be accessed by snowcat from Forest Service Roads 611 and 727. An alternative location would be in the Dunton Meadows area, about 3 miles to the northeast of the Dunton Hot Springs. This area would be accessed from Forest Service Road 471. Obviously, the Dunton resort operators are proponents, and if approved, Dunton would be authorized for a recreation permit to guide its clients to the trails. But the trails would also be open to the general public. Access and use would be for snowmobile, cross-country skiing, snow bikes, or snowshoes. The final decision is expected in the coming months.
That's it for today's show. Stay tuned for an interview with Todd Parisi, Dolores County's Emergency Operations Coordinator, coming up in just a few minutes. Again, thanks for tuning in. This program is aired live at noon and rebroadcasted at 2:30 and 8 p.m. on Channel 32.1 Dolores County, on Channel 30.4 in Montezuma County, and their cable channel 5.
You can also rewatch the broadcast on YouTube at the DCTV News at Noon channel. Be sure to contact us with your news suggestions. All feedback's welcome.
For Kendra Cook, Jerry Tope, and all those working to bring you DCTV and the News at Noon program from Dove Creek, USA, I'm Kelsey Kiesling. See you next time. We would like to welcome Todd Parisi today.
Hi.
He has some exciting news regarding his position here in Dolores County. Todd, would you like to introduce yourself and your new position here in Dolores County?
Thanks, I'd love to. My name is Todd Parisi, and my official title is the Dolores County Emergency Operations Coordinator.
So tell me, what exactly is your role and what does it entail?
Well, my primary role is that of liaison between all the different departments that work within the county. My job is to try to help them obtain equipment and training that they need so that they can do their jobs better, and to work with the county, the state, and the federal government and act as a liaison between those agencies so that we make sure that we're in compliance, so that all our other agencies are eligible for as much grant funding as they need to get.
So if someone were to like some training on some of this emergency situations, how would they go about doing that?
They could either contact me at the County Commissioner's office, or they can email me or call my cell phone, which is on DCTV, on the rotating schemes. We do a lot of different training. With the Commissioner's help, we've started a more public CPR first aid training. But we also have available NIMS, which is the National Incident Command System, that if people and volunteers are looking to get so that they understand what's going on at a larger incident, we can bring that training in, or I can help them do that online.
Okay, so let's go back to a recent emergency that occurred on Highway 491 over the holiday. What was your role there?
My role was right there as a coordinator. Our emergency services did all the work on the ground, our fire, ambulance, and law enforcement, and my job was to coordinate. We did end up having to open up a couple shelter points, which we used the churches, and what I did is I called my contacts at the churches and had them open up their doors, and then coordinated between dispatch and the emergency services to let them know they were open. And then with the help of emergency services, the fire department, we were able to get the people who were stranded on the road, get them off the road and into a warm, dry place where they could receive coffee and food. And then my other job was to, every time I stopped by, try to get a nice, fresh, hot cup of coffee to the guys that were doing traffic control.
Yeah, I know how helpful that is when I was up on the search at Groundhog. That was really cold.
Yes, and a lot of my work is exactly that, is to just fill the little niches that can't be filled in an emergency, so that people aren't being pulled off, like firefighters aren't being pulled off from their duties to take care of small other things that need to be taken care of.
So you're basically making sure they can stay out there and do the important things they need to, and have the people who are free to do those smaller tasks do those.
And I get those done, and I get things set up for them, so that they can continue to focus on the work that needs to be done on the ground. We don't want our emergency responders worrying about the next step. Their job is to do what's in front of them, and then I come along and try to do the stuff that they need. Try to get it all set up for them so that when they do make a decision on what direction to go with something, that the legwork is already set for them.
So then you're trained in all of this incident command and everything?
Yes, I have a degree from emergency management. I've been active in emergency services with FEMA and with medical for a total of 15 years, 7 of that with a medical license to respond as a EMT. And again, that's another thing that they can use me for, is larger incidents like that, maybe where there's more patients. I can be used as a medical responder. And the other thing I can also be used for is to try to help people to figure out what kind of training and what kind of equipment they may need. And then my job is to go out and find as many sources for that training and equipment as possible. And then I bring them back to the agencies, and the agencies choose what direction they want to go.
All right. So what are some of the larger examples of what you prepare for?
We're just starting a new project now. It's called Pre-Disaster Mitigation Planning, where I will be working with a contract company and the major stakeholders in Dolores County. And our job is to recognize the biggest natural kind of disasters we may have here. A lot of people think that it's fire, and it is the most, it's the eye catcher, no question about it, but snowstorms and straight line winds actually do more financial damage to the county. So we will recognize, acknowledge those, then we'll go into an analysis to see how much it could cost the county. And then from there, we can start building plans to try to prevent them, do mitigation before the emergency, so that we can limit the impact on them.
Yeah, I've been noticing this year there's a lot of people that are stuck in their homes and they can't get any food or medicine. And I hear some people are driving their snowmobiles out to them and doing all that stuff.
Yep.
Do you have anything to do with that?
Not at this point. That's just that's the caring nature of this community. We have a big base of support for people who want to help and make sure that the things get done and get done right, and that nobody gets left behind. That is a 2016 project, is we will be starting a community volunteer response system so that our volunteers can get the additional training or equipment that they may need and be able to save them money and get everybody connection with the same group so that we can all work together and make sure that nobody's being left behind.
All right. So what do you have coming up that you feel Dolores County should be aware of?
Obviously around here it's always the fire season. Right now we have lots and lots of moisture, but you never know with winters around here. We could have all our moisture already, and what we'll have in the spring is a beautiful, beautiful harvest of cheatgrass, which will mean for mesa top fires, and of course they feed into forest fires. And that's something we always got to try to be prepared for. The 491 incident showed us that we were getting better at being prepared for this, but I do plan, with the commissioner's approval, we're going to work with all the agencies that were involved, from Utah down into Cortez, to see if next time we can't even be a little bit better prepared.
Well, that'd be awesome.
It's been exciting. It's a challenge. It's not very glamorous, but it does have a lot of its own rewards. Being able to have one family that did spend the night at one of our shelter points, had 2 young children, and the stress and the strain of attempting to drive with their children and everything, even though this was a professional truck driver, with his family, he did not want to take a chance. And being able to pull those churches together, and the volunteers that helped us, and the firefighters that even helped to show what direction to get to the shelter, made a huge impact in that family's life. So I'm encouraged about what we can accomplish.
Well, personally, I'm thankful that you're here, because it looks like we need this kind of thinking going on, because you never know what's going to happen.
Well, that is my job. My job is to plan for the worst and hope for the best. And with our emergency responders, a lot of times we get the best more often than the worst, so it's encouraging.
Well, thank you for coming in.
Thanks
and
for having me.
explaining all of this to us.
And if there's any other questions, again, I can be reached at the courthouse, and hopefully by spring we'll start putting up a schedule for some public CPR and first aid classes.
And what was your phone number?
Phone number is area code 970-739-5654.
All right.
And I can be reached at dcoem@yahoo.com.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.